A golden retriever puppy eagerly jumped into the boy's lap, but he didn't react at all. It seemed like he wasn't very fond of the puppy. However, his grandmother was thrilled by the sight and quickly called for her son and daughter-in-law to come over. Turns out the boy had been diagnosed with autism since childhood. As long as he didn't resist the dog, it was already a huge surprise for them. Seeing this, the couple smiled. They immediately decided to keep the puppy. Then, the grandmother suggested that the boy name the puppy. Glancing at his favorite TV show, Thomas the Tank Engine, he said Thomas without hesitation. The one most excited about Thomas's arrival was the boy's mother. She had placed all her hopes on this little dog. Without realizing it, tears started to fall. These past years had drained her, dealing with her son's autism. Just a few days ago, she had walked into the closet and found herself locked inside by her son. When she finally realized what had happened, she shouted for help, but Kyle was already far away. Remembering that the front door was still wide open, she panicked. She frantically banged on the door, trying to force it open with tools, but nothing worked. Suddenly, she heard the sound of glass shattering.
Kyle?
Inside the living room, Kyle seemed completely detached from the world. No matter how loudly his mother called, he didn't respond. He sat there calmly, drinking juice and watching his beloved Thomas. Only when the sound of the TV reached her ears did Nicola finally breathe a sigh of relief. At least her son hadn't run out. She thought things would be fine once her husband came home. But just then, the front door slammed shut in a gust of wind, making Nicola panic again. And in the living room, the sound of the TV was gone, replaced by the unsettling honk of a car outside. Fearing the worst, she completely broke down. When she couldn't hear any sound from outside, Nicola was overwhelmed with despair. Just then, the door finally opened. Seeing her son standing there, safe and sound, she pulled him into her arms tightly, her eyes red with tears. Things like this had happened more than once before. So, having her child grow up safely was already her greatest wish. Kyle's autism made him resistant to any kind of contact, even with his own parents. And if anything didn't go his way, he would act out in unpredictable ways.
No, Kyle! No, come on.
As we all know, when a child is suffering, it's the parents who hurt the most. They tried everything they could, but nothing seemed to improve Kyle's condition. Then, the grandmother suggested they adopt a dog, thinking it might help with Kyle's autism. That's how Thomas, the golden retriever, came into their home. It was the first time Kyle showed any curiosity about the outside world. That night, instead of going to bed, Kyle dragged his blanket downstairs. With his family watching in confusion, he put the blanket in the dog's bed and gently placed Thomas inside.
Bedtime, Thomas!
That stunned everyone, because it was the first time Kyle had ever expressed himself so openly. The next morning, Kyle played with Thomas in the living room. His father, woken by the noise, excitedly shared the good news with his wife. This was the first time their son had played so joyfully since he was born. Even the noise that early in the morning felt like music to their ears. Ever since Thomas arrived, it was like Kyle had become a different person. He even took the initiative to help feed the dog, and his mother patiently guided him, enjoying every moment.
Water!
Some water. Well done. Very good.
At that moment, the father walked in and was surprised to see that Thomas had peed on the floor.
Thomas, wait!
Nicola took the chance to teach her son that when he needed to go to the bathroom, he should do it outside so the house wouldn't smell all bad. Kyle looked at her, not fully understanding. To help him get it better, Nicola took him outside and showed him how Thomas goes potty outside. Afterward, she rewarded Thomas with a treat. Kyle seemed to think it over like he was starting to get it. The next day at school, Kyle was in his usual spot, playing alone in the corner. His teacher invited him to join the other kids and play together.
No.
When he refused, the teacher was already used to it. But then, out of nowhere, Kyle suddenly said he needed to go to the bathroom. The teacher stared at him, not quite believing it.
What did you say, Kyle?
Don't want to make the house dirty and smelly.
Changing clothes for these kids with autism had become part of their job. But what the teacher never expected was for the child with the most severe autism in the class to ask to go to the bathroom. Afterward, Kyle even asked the teacher for a reward. The teacher, seeing him hold out his hand, immediately agreed and praised him for being the most well-behaved child. That day after school, Kyle brought home his first drawing. It was simple, but his mom and grandma were over the moon when they saw it. From then on, Kyle developed a new hobby, drawing. He even made sure to include Thomas in the picture. Thomas wasn't just helping Kyle, he was also mending the relationship between his parents. The couple had argued countless times about whether to have a second child. But with the dog's arrival, their home became more peaceful. They decided to just let things happen as they would. Although Kyle seemed to be improving with Thomas's companionship, he would still snap if the adults mentioned something he didn't like. Seeing her son go back to how he was before, Nicola didn't know what to do. A wave of helplessness washed over her. No matter how much she and her husband tried to calm him down, nothing worked. Then, this father is pretending to be a dog talking, and the reason he does this is quite special. It's to comfort his child, Kyle, who has autism. Kyle's autism has always been a source of great stress for his parents. It wasn't until the arrival of the golden retriever, Thomas, that Kyle seemed to improve a bit. But on this day, because Mom Nicola said the words proud and okay, Kyle suddenly lost control. No matter how his parents tried to comfort him, it was of no use. In a moment of desperation, his father decided to pretend to be a dog talking. To everyone's surprise, Kyle instantly became calm. The seemingly absurd behavior actually worked on their son. Both parents were completely shocked. For a moment, they didn't know whether to feel happy or sad. It turned out that, without even realizing it, Thomas had become the bridge for communication between them and their son. Nicola felt helpless, but compared to the coldness her son had shown before, she could only choose to be content. That night, when Kyle came to ask Thomas to sleep with him, something unexpected happened.
Thomas, come to bed. Stop playing with Dad.
The father thought he must have heard wrong because it was the first time his son had called him Dad. Watching his son about to leave, he hesitated and replied cautiously,
Night then, son.
Night, Dad.
Seeing this, Nicola took the chance to join the conversation.
Good night, Kyle.
Night, Mom.
Since birth, their son had never called them Mom or Dad. But now, in this moment, they could finally feel their son's love for them. What made it even better was that Nicola had just found out she was pregnant with their second child. They quickly shared the good news with the boys' grandparents, who were genuinely happy for them. To help more children with autism, they even decided to let Kyle take Thomas to school. They thought some of the other autistic children might be afraid of the dog, but to their surprise, the moment they saw Thomas, the kids opened up and eagerly interacted with him. Even Kyle, who usually played alone in the corner, unexpectedly joined in with his classmates. It seemed like everything was finally heading in the right direction. But this rare happiness, like a wave, came quickly and left just as suddenly. One day, Nicola received an urgent call saying her mother was in critical condition at the hospital. She rushed to grab her son, hoping to see her mother one last time. But just as they were about to leave, Kyle had another episode. Helpless, she had to push him in a stroller to the hospital. Unfortunately, by the time they arrived, too much time had been wasted, and they missed the chance to say goodbye. Nicola felt like she was falling apart. She never expected that just a few days ago, her mother had been laughing and talking with her, and now she was gone. Kyle, still too young to understand death, didn't show any sadness at the funeral. The only thing he noticed was that there was a toy he liked on the coffin. His dad told him that if he followed it to the end, he could have it. After the funeral, Nicola was overwhelmed with grief. The pain of losing her mother was unbearable, and the sadness caused her pregnancy to end. As the start of school approached, Nicola tried to pull herself together to send Kyle off, but after the break, Kyle refused to go back to school. He wanted to stay home and play with Thomas. When he reached out to hit, his mom had no choice but to pull him into her arms. Hearing the commotion, his dad came into the living room. He picked up Kyle and in an effort to calm him down, began playing the dog again. But unexpectedly, Kyle broke free, kicked Thomas, and the poor dog, confused and hurt, could only lie on the floor whimpering. Seeing that, Nicola completely lost it. All the built-up emotions from the past few days finally exploded.
I will not have you making that dog's life a misery. Now get out!
This was the first time Nicola had ever lost her temper with her son. The grief of losing her mother, the miscarriage, and Kyle's disobedience had piled up, suffocating her. But as soon as she calmed down, she immediately regretted it. No matter what, she shouldn't have taken out all her emotions on a child. So, in front of Kyle, they put a bandage on Thomas and told him the dog was in pain. Nicola pretended to make a phone call, saying they were going to return Thomas to the shelter. Only then did Kyle realize his mistake. He begged the dog not to leave and promised to love him from now on. Seeing this, the couple sighed in relief, thinking the crisis had passed. But to their surprise, after that day, Thomas's condition worsened by the hour. No matter how delicious the food, he wouldn't eat. He lay in the yard all day, lethargic and sad, unwilling to move. Even when someone tried to pick him up, they quickly realized something was seriously wrong with Thomas and took him to the vet. To their shock, the doctor issued an emergency prognosis. No one expected the dog's condition to be this bad. To them, Thomas was no longer just a dog. He had become the light that saved their son and their family. They couldn't bear the thought of losing him. After the surgery, Thomas slipped into a semi-comatose state. The doctor told them that if he didn't survive the night, there was nothing more he could do. When Kyle came home from school, he gently stroked Thomas and told him if it hurt too much, he could go to heaven like Grandma.
It's a nice place, but I want you to stay here.
Children's expressions of love are always so simple and genuine. But when Dad saw the scene, his worry only grew. They feared that, without Thomas, their son would fall back into his old ways. Perhaps it was the family's sincerity that moved heaven itself. The next day, to their astonishment, Thomas walked into the room full of energy. He wagged his tail and looked at his little owner, as if telling him, "I'm staying with you." In the end, the whole family went to a park. With Thomas by his side, Kyle finally opened up to his mother.
Thomas said he isn't sore anymore.
I know, it's wonderful, isn't it?
And he said he loves his mum.
He does, darling, doesn't he?
And Kyle loves his mum.
Nicola's eyes instantly welled up. In disbelief, she stepped forward and asked her son.
What did you say, Kyle?
Kyle loves his mum.
The ice had melted, and love flooded in. Nicola's nose tingled, and she pulled her son tightly into her arms. All the years of hardship seemed to vanish in that moment. With Thomas by their side, she believed their future could only get brighter. With that, the story comes to an end. After Thomas is based on a true story. At a time when autism was still widely misunderstood, Thomas had a profound impact on Kyle's life. He had been by Kyle's side until he turned 18. Sadly, Thomas passed away in Easter 2006. As for Kyle, he went on to attend college, where he studied childcare with the hope of helping others in the future. Feel free to leave your thoughts on the movie in the comments. See you in the next movie.